little one. Join us!
Do you still remember it? Do you remember that strange creature that once plunged all of Japan into a whirlpool of feverish excitement and a deep, bottomless sense of unease? In 1990, just as the intoxicating heat of the bubble economy was beginning to quiet down, and as a certain era was preparing to draw its final breath, that existence slipped into the gaps of our collective consciousness. Television variety shows pursued its image day after day. Sensational headlines danced across the covers of weekly magazines and on every street corner. People whispered about a single pond located in a remote temple. Deep within those waters, there lurked a creature said to possess the same face as a human being, the Jinmenju, or the human-faced fish. From the murky, stagnant surface of the pond, that face would emerge slitheringly and without a sound. It was not merely the inorganic form of a fish. Instead, it possessed eye sockets that seemed to hold a flicker of will, a protrusion resembling a high-bridged nose that suggested a furrowed brow, and heavy leaden lips that appeared to be tightly sealed, as if suppressing a profound secret. For many who suddenly locked eyes with that fish, a sharp, icy pillar of dread ran down their spines. It was far too vivid, far too raw to be dismissed as a mere passing fad. Its gaze spoke directly to the primal fears carved into our very DNA. Why would a face belonging to a warm-blooded human manifest upon a fish living in the cold depths of the water? Was it simply a cruel prank of nature, a chance alignment of colors and patterns, or was it a grave warning shown to us by the unseen world, a message directed at a material civilization that had accelerated far beyond its limits? Now let us once again unravel this phenomenon of the human-faced fish, with meticulous detail examining it through the cold lens of modern science and the hidden ancient traditions that have been passed down through the ages. Every story has a beginning, and this one started at Zenpo-ji, an ancient and venerable temple standing quietly in Tsuruoka City, Yamagata Prefecture. Within its grounds lies the shell-eating pond, a body of water that heavily reflects the deep green of the surrounding forest. In this pond, where silence usually reigns supreme, a single golden carp was discovered, and the peaceful atmosphere of the temple was instantly transformed. Upon the head of that carp, with a clarity that was almost cruel, were markings that looked exactly like human eyes, a nose, and a mouth. When the photo magazine Friday published an image of this fish, the quiet training ground for monks was suddenly overrun. Tens of thousands of pilgrims and tourists swarmed the area daily, their footsteps sounding like a low earthquake. People crowded around the pond in multiple layers, desperate for a glimpse of this anomaly, and the flashes of countless cameras sliced through the water surface, where light was never meant to reach. The scene was almost like a sacrilegious ritual, an invasion of a sacred space. However, what the people gathered there witnessed was not just a rare biological mutation. The creature that slowly thrust its head through the heavy, turgid water looked like an old man carrying the weight of a lifetime of suffering, or perhaps like the manifestation of a grudge held by someone who had departed this world with deep resentment. The surrounding air was thick with a unique tension, a damp heaviness that clung to the skin. In those moments when the wind died down, the silence of the pond felt as though the creature itself was sucking in all the sound from the environment. Its bizarre appearance held an undeniable power, something that violently shook the very foundations of the common sense that supports our daily lives. Do you know the unsettling rumors that whispered through the shadows of this unprecedented boom, flowing like a dark underground river? There were many attempts even then to analyze the human-faced fish within a rational and scientific framework. Experts in ethology and biology closely examined the skeletal structure of the Nishikigoi carp and the patterns of pigment deposition on its scales. The conclusion they reached was an explanation. Based on a psychological phenomenon known as pareidolia, this is a highly developed cognitive trait of the human brain, where it perceives meaningful patterns, such as faces, in random or ambiguous stimuli. From a neurological perspective, a region in the brain called the fusiform face area works to identify faces, even from incomplete visual information, an evolutionary mechanism essential for survival. The carp's head has nostrils, and the surrounding bone protrusions, combined with irregular spots that occur during the growth process, can create the appearance of a human expression when viewed through the complex refraction of light on the water. Indeed, from a strictly anatomical standpoint, a fish cannot possess the complex facial muscles or mammalian cartilage necessary to form a true human expression. Yet for those who stood by the pond and saw that face glide up, defying gravity to break the surface and stare at them with a sharp, piercing gaze, the scientific explanation felt hollow and soulless. It was as if the expression possessed a spiritual weight that transcended the physical arrangement of markings. There were many who remained convinced that some unknown energy was at play, something that could not be captured by the lens of science. Or perhaps they felt that the observer's own subconscious was being projected onto the fish as a medium. This was an experience far too heavy to be dismissed by the mere label of a brain illusion. As we delve deeper into this phenomenon, we discover numerous records in historical documents that are even more eerie and suggestive. The existence of a fish with a human face was not something that suddenly appeared in 1990. In the Wakan Sansai Zue, an encyclopedia from the Edo period, and in various collections of strange tales, passed down through different regions, such monstrous fish make frequent appearances. When we decode these records from a folkloric perspective, we see that ancient and medieval Japanese people treated the water's edge with extreme caution, viewing it as a boundary. In these old accounts, a fish with a human face was never seen as a good omen bringing blessings. Instead, it was feared as a harbinger of great disasters, such as massive earthquakes, plagues, or terrible famines. It was also believed to be the vessel for the regret of those who had met a tragic end in water accidents, their souls remaining in this world by inhabiting the body of a fish. According to a legend in one region, a villager who suffered through a harsh famine threw themselves into a river in despair, and their soul took residence in a fish, staring up from the bottom of the water at the village that had abandoned them. The shell-eating pond at Zenpo-ji was also a solemn place where the worship of the dragon god was deeply rooted. It was a sanctuary where the water itself was believed to possess spiritual power, connecting this world to the world beyond. Why did such a raw and lifelike human face appear in a place with such a special magnetic field? It might not have been a mere biological accident, but rather a spiritual crystallization of the vast memories and emotions that had accumulated in that land over centuries. While the dragon god is said to appear in the form of a fish, the fact that its face was human might not have been a sign of mercy, but rather a manifestation of disappointment toward humanity, a hypothesis that makes one's blood run cold. I would like to pause here and ask you to look within your own senses. If you were standing by a deep pond in the middle of a night so dark that not even the city lights could reach it, and you encountered a fish with a human face full of agony, staring intently at you from beneath the surface, what emotion would cross your mind as a damp, cold wind brushes your cheek and you feel the presence of the water creeping up from your feet? What do you feel when your eyes lock with a creature that is not supposed to understand language? Do you feel it is a sign of luck, an encounter with the unknown? Or is it a primal terror, the feeling that you have witnessed, something that should never be seen in the order of this world? Please share your intuition and the sensations you might feel in that moment in the comments. Another hypothesis, one that carries a more modern and realistic horror, is the theory of mutation caused by environmental pollution. Around 1990, when the human-faced fish boom swept the nation, the rivers and closed water systems of Japan were exposed to severe contamination from chemical substances and heavy metals, a legacy of the high economic growth period. Surfactants from household detergents, powerful pesticides from large-scale agricultural lands, and substances with unknown chemical compositions from industrial waste were all flowing into the water. Experts pointed out that these harmful components could cause serious genetic errors during the delicate process of embryonic development in fish, distorting the skeletal structure of the head and inducing irregular pigment patterns. The skeletal formation of fish is extremely sensitive to water quality, dissolved oxygen levels, and trace amounts of chemicals. In particular, breeds like the Nishiki-goi, which have undergone extensive selective breeding, often possess genetic vulnerabilities that make them prone to manifesting deformities in the facial area as a result of pollutants. In other words, those distorted faces of the human-faced fish, filled with apparent suffering, might have been a silent but stinging message of revenge. It was as if the fish, unable to even breathe properly in the water humans had poisoned, were using their own bodies as a canvas to portray their agony. Affected by environmental hormones, their reproductive functions were stolen, and their very forms were altered. We might have been consuming that tragic sight as a form of entertainment, treating it as something funny or curious. What were they thinking as they were bombarded by camera flashes and surrounded by noise? When viewed this way, the sorrowful expressions of those fish were not an illusion, but a final plea from a dying species. This was a biological tragedy, and at the same time an endless trial questioning our own ethics. Furthermore, there were chilling urban legends whispered in the shadows of society back then, suggesting that these creatures were the remnants of secret genetic engineering experiments. The rumor was that a specific research institution or an organization, hidden in the shadows of the state, was conducting unethical experiments, ignoring all boundaries to enhance the intelligence of fish or even create human-fish hybrids for the purpose of utilizing marine resources. During that time, there were many gray areas in the rapidly advancing field of biotechnology where legal regulations had not yet caught up. Remarkably, among the reported human-faced fish, there were occasional accounts of individuals showing extremely intelligent and calculated reactions, as if they perfectly understood the words of the people around them. There were stories of fish persistently following a specific person, standing at the edge of the pond, or appearing at a precise time as if meeting someone by appointment. One terrifying eyewitness account claimed that when they looked into a quiet pond at midnight, a fish slowly emerged and moved its mouth as if muttering something in a low, wet, human-like voice. It was said to be less like a word and more like the hollow vibration of a creature without lungs trying to speak. If those fish possessed those human faces because they had been artificially spliced with human DNA, it would mean they were tragic existences embodying a living hell, brought into this world because we stepped into the domain of the gods without caution. Did the things that escaped from the cold tanks of the laboratory spend the rest of their lives in murky ponds, searching for their own identity or harboring a mixture of longing and hatred for the humans who created them? When we explore this phenomenon from a psychological perspective, the reason why the human-faced fish so strongly attracted and simultaneously repelled people can be explained by the concept of the uncanny valley. The human species has an instinctive and powerful aversion to non-human objects that look too much like themselves, but are decisively different in some way. This is believed to be a highly developed avoidance response evolved to keep distance from things that threaten survival, such as infectious diseases or deceased remains. A fish, a cold-blooded creature that branched off from the human evolutionary path hundreds of millions of years ago, suddenly appears with a familiar yet imperfectly distorted human face. This existence, sitting at that exquisite middle point, that belongs to neither category, stimulates our psychological defense mechanisms in the most uncomfortable way. The inexplicable chill that rises from the core of the body when staring at that face is clear evidence that our survival instinct recognizes that anomaly as an unidentified and incomprehensible threat. If it were just a fish, we could treat it as food. If it were just a human, we could communicate through words. But a being on that boundary is a monster beyond our control, something that destroys the order of the world we have built and threatens our daily safety. That face, sinking into the bottom of the uncanny valley, might have been the ultimate form of the other that we can never truly understand. Now, I would like to hear the precious experiences of those of you who remember that time. For those who lived through the human-faced fish boom of the 1990s and felt the fever and eerie atmosphere firsthand, or for those who happened to see a fish with a strange face in a small, nameless pond or marsh, do you have a story to tell? Do you remember the smell of incense drifting around the pond, the sound of gravel underfoot, or the somewhat restless laughter of the crowds? Also, do you still hear strange tales of modern-day human-faced fish in your local area or in the corners of the internet? Even the smallest observation or fragment of memory could be an important key to solving this mystery. Please share your details. Among the many stories surrounding the human-faced fish, the one told with the most dread and conviction is the theory of possession by the souls of the departed. Since ancient times, the water's edge has been considered a boundary or a veil between the world of the living and the hidden world of those who have passed. As noted by folklorists, water is a medium that carries and sometimes traps spirits, the souls of those who lost their lives prematurely in water accidents, and whose remains were never found, might have had their consciousness, filled with lingering regret, enter the robust body of a carp. In fact, in certain regions it was said that when a human-faced fish appeared, its features always bore a striking resemblance to someone from the village who had recently ceased their life activities. Its gaze would stare into the void, and it would occasionally shake its head in a way that recalled the habits of the person when they were still among us. Are they quietly watching over their beloved families through the eyes of a fish? Or are they harboring a deep grudge, cursing the cold world that failed to save them? There is an old belief that the souls of those who drown transform into water spirits, attempting to pull the living down into the depths. The golden human-faced fish of the shell-eating pond, when viewed through the lens of the dragon god legends, could be seen as an avatar of the deity, but also as a living vessel to appease the countless spirits who lost their lives in past wars or natural disasters. The face that people frantically photographed might have been the very cry of a soul seeking salvation from the deep mud. The coins or crumbs we threw in might have meant nothing to them. Perhaps our greedy gazes only caused their souls further torment. More than 30 years have passed since that explosive boom, and we rarely hear about the human-faced fish in the media today. However, they have not completely vanished or become extinct. Even now, in old ponds hidden in deep forests or in neglected marshes far from the city noise, they continue to live on, unseen. The glamour of the past craze is gone, and they simply watch us from the murky depths, separated by the boundary of the water surface. As the boom ended, many were forgotten by the fickle memory of the public, and some might have been abandoned by careless owners or ceased their biological functions in loneliness due to environmental changes. Yet, this also means they have escaped the interference of the noisy human race and regained their rightful silence. Was the human-faced fish a fleeting phantom created by the distortions of the bubble era? Or was it a true reflection of the ugliness, the karma, and the darkness in the human heart, shown to us through the mirror of the water? Today, we are busy looking into the black mirrors of our smartphone screens and have lost the leisure to look into the surface of the ponds at our feet. But that gaze that once terrified the nation is still waiting somewhere for the moment we look into the water again. When you peer into a quiet pond, is what you see really the face of a fish? Or is something in the darkness beneath the surface mimicking your face and smiling back at you? I have one final important question for you. If the human-faced fish were to appear before us again, this time in a form even clearer than in 1990, what kind of future do you think that would represent? Would it be a bright future where all mysteries are solved and science has reached its peak? Or would it be a sign of the end, a precursor to the irreversible collapse of our civilization and the destruction of nature? Or perhaps would it be the start of a new urban legend, crawling out from the digital sea into the physical ponds? Please let us know your predictions based on your sharp intuition. The human-faced fish. The truth hidden behind that eerie yet somehow nostalgic face is not just one thing. It was a miracle born of chance in the natural world, a symbol of environmental destruction caused by human arrogance, and a beacon to awaken our primal fear and great respect for the unknown. When we look into the dark water and find that grotesque face, we are, in fact, facing our own inner selves through the form of a fish, or confronting the shadows of society we refuse to see. I hope this story has served as a catalyst to awaken your interest in the ordinary water edges around you, or your quiet, all for the inexplicable things that may lurk there. If this content has stimulated your intellectual curiosity or moved your soul, why not subscribe to the channel and continue to peer into the abysses of the world with us? Your support through subscribing is a powerful force that helps us unravel the next unknown mystery and cast light into the darkness. Whether you believe this tale or dismiss it as mere superstition is entirely up to you. But if tonight, a fish with a wet, raw human face appears silently in your dreams, it might be undeniable proof that they have chosen you as a new partner for a dialogue that needs no words. Thank you for accompanying us on this journey through the deep shadows. We look forward to seeing you in the next mysterious tale that no one knows yet. Until then, as you drift into deep sleep, please be mindful of the gaze from beneath the water. Good night.